Hello again, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to another episode of In Your Face. This is going to be kind of a new and unusual episode of In Your Face. Basically, you, the Maverick Nation, have spoke up and asked some questions that I feel I should answer. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do our very best to answer these questions. Little Galaxy, she was bound and determined to get in the shot till, until I start talking. Okay, let's start off with the first one. A gentleman called Lover of Love asked the question, what's your car's 0 to 60 time? Well, that's a good question. The problem with asking, trying to answer this question, I've not bothered to look this up, to find out for myself what Spirit's 0 to 60 time is. You have to excuse me, I go by the old hot rod standards. One of the people that taught me how to do hot rodding stuff was my dad, and we didn't really get hung up on numbers. One of the other people who taught me was an old moonshiner from the 50s, and he didn't get hung up on numbers. The only thing that mattered was, did it outrun what you needed to outrun, if you know what I'm saying. And Dad, being the old hot rodder that he wasn't from the 70s, all we worried about was, did it outrun, what was it outrunning? So that's kind of how I was brought up in the hot rod world. Now by the late 90s, we started getting hung up on numbers a little bit, but by today, everyone wants to know what times are, horsepower numbers, things like that. Well, I'm not bothered with the 0 to 60 time. However, so since I've not done this, and the weather is not going to be cooperative right now, it's Missouri, and it's winter time, if you could tell by the time code below. I decided that maybe I should go back in time and look at, what the Mavericks were as far as 0 to 60. I know they looked at those numbers in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s on some cars. I believe, if I remember correctly, the 1970 Chevelle Super Sport 454 with the LS6 4-speed manual, rated at 450 horsepower from the factory, which it was probably higher than that, had about a 0 to 60 time of about 4.7 seconds, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what I remember, which is pretty doggone good. However, by the 70s, they really weren't worrying about numbers like that, and the reason being was, horsepower numbers had dropped dramatically. Do you really want to start posting the fact that your cars are slower than they used to be? And the answer is no. I can tell you this, on average, in the 70s, normally speaking, vehicles were, they weren't ground stompers. From the factory, usually your V8s were putting out a 0 to 60 time of about 6.5 seconds, and the 6-cylinders were about 7.5 seconds. That was pretty well the norm. So if you were to twist my arm, I'd say Spirit's probably getting, I'm going to say, if you were twisting my arm, I'm going to say 7.25 seconds from 0 to 60, but that's not concrete. I know that doesn't answer your question, so I'll tell you what. Come warm weather, springtime weather, we're going to start looking at those numbers. A lot of you want to know numbers. We're going to start looking at those numbers. And there was one number I was working on. We didn't get to it during the drag racing season. I'm more curious about her quarter-mile time. Just kind of a curiosity. But we're going to start looking at a lot of those numbers like that. 0 to 60 time, quarter-mile time, and top speed. Those are the three numbers I'm really the most interested in. So that, I know that doesn't answer your question, my friend, but We will look at those numbers. We will continue to dig deeper into that. So I will find out for you. I just can't right now because it is cold. Weather conditions have been very, very rough if you've been keeping up with the news lately. So we will look at that, but not until warm weather. Okay, so I will answer your question. I just can't fully answer it right now. Okay? All right. And this one is from Bert TV. He writes, "Is there really blinker fluid?" What he's talking about, and I know where he was going with this. He was teasing around, and what this was really about was the fact that I caught someone not using their turn signal. People, there's a reason why they're on cars. This is why before we had turn signals, we've always had hand signals. There's a reason why we still have them today. People need to know when you're stopping. You know, I've had one time where years ago I used to have an '80 Malibu station wagon, and it ran great. Unfortunately, it had been abused for many years before I had gotten it. And it had a little 267 VA automatic transmission. It was a great, great car in a lot of ways. But the sunlight had caught, it had caught this woman's eyes, and she couldn't see my brake lights because I just polished the bumper. It was ugly, but I still took care of it. But anyhow, she couldn't see the tail lights, and she slammed right into the back of my car. Now, because of the height and the way the bumpers were made, she was driving around a 96, 97 Chevy Cavalier, and it totaled her car. Mine, I walked away with a dent about that big. Where am I going with all this? Because she couldn't see my brake lights, she ran into me. Of course, it also didn't hurt the fact that she was on a mobile phone, not a cell phone, but a mobile phone, a bag phone, on the floor. This has been some years ago. And if she had not been on the phone, she still might not known that I was stopping because of the fact that she couldn't see, she couldn't see my tail lights. So if she couldn't see my tail lights, and I had the turn signal on, regardless, I mean, it was still ruled as her fault because she was on a phone. Everyone knew that. But because of all of these things, she would have been less likely to have totaled her car. And for the record, she hit me hard enough, another 6 inches more, her engine would have came through the firewall and cut her in half. And I even went to high school with this gal. She knew better. So just bear that in mind. So use your turn signals out there, and keep these things up to snuff, because you don't want to end up basically rear end, you don't want your vehicle getting rear-ended. You don't want, you don't want this on your head. So use your turn signals. All right, and last but not least on these, a couple people who run their own channels, and I know I'm about to massacre the first one. Skivat, and I think that's how it's pronounced. The channel Skivat. And another channel called Nova, I like that, they wrote in saying that they love the Prince Magnum channel, and they asked for my opinion on their channels, which I did take a look at a couple of videos on each one, and they also asked me to subscribe, and then they were going to start sending some of their people over to my channel because they just could not believe with what I was doing that I didn't have more support. So thank you both for writing, sending in a comment and really enjoying the channel and everything. I have subscribed to both of your channels, and I want to thank you both for taking the time out to take a look at the Prince Magnum channel. I looked at a couple of videos on each of your channels. I do like them. They're very nice, very pleasant. And I guess you could say this is for all of the YouTube creators out there, just like me. I have sat back and I have kind of kept quiet about this with the whole demonetization thing that a lot of people went through. And of course, at about the time everyone was going through it, I was getting monetized. And the one thing I'm going to tell you is that nowadays, I guess you could say there's YouTube's got this whole censorship thing going on right now with the foul language and the content, and we can all appreciate that to an extent. Um, you all have to understand. I get the whole First Amendment, freedom of speech. I'm all for that. However, we all, when we were signing up, there was a box that said that we understood the the rules. Basically, regardless if there's freedom of speech, we agreed to it. So if we agree to it, then we need to stick to these rules, okay? If we don't get paid. It's just that simple, okay? So you can get upset about it all day long. Like one particular gentleman, I've watched his video and he was ranting and raving about it, and I get that he was angry about the whole situation, but he was basically he was sitting there. Every other word out of his mouth was the F word. Well, I turned right around and watched one of his other videos just to see if, maybe he was just angry. No, that's just the way he talks. So my suggestion to all of you in the YouTube creators universe, just like me, I'm not going to tell you not to cuss, because on occasion I do too, and I do include it whenever, when there's a time and a place for it. I think there's a time and a place for everything. To a certain degree, obviously. So just be smart about that. I mean, if every other word out of your mouth is the F word and you get demonetized, you kind of brought it on yourself. But if you're putting up stuff and at that certain moment, it's one of those things. It's kind of like, Star Trek 4, is it time for colorful metaphors? Well, yeah. If it fits in the video at that moment, then yes, I agree, it needs to be there. So it's one of those things, if be smart about it, be tactful about it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you don't cuss and don't put what content you want up there. Just be smart about it, if every other word out of your mouth is the F word, maybe you might want to try to explore the English language outside of certain four-letter words. Just my opinion, but that would be the one thing I would suggest to the people who wrote me. And I want to do, again, thank you to I like what you guys are doing, and I'll try to watch your channel as often as possible. But unfortunately, I still work for a living. I work fast food. I'm actually a maintenance man in a fast food restaurant, and it's sometimes very difficult. Real quick, we're going to cut away, and basically you all are going to see when I say Missouri has been very rough. We've had a lot of ice, a lot of snow the last 2 days, and it's been very difficult to get out. As a matter of fact, a couple days ago when all the ice began, it was actually very treacherous. A lot of accidents, and I'm going to basically cut away. I'm going to do a little bit of narrating, and kind of briefly give some big shout outs to some great people, and then we're going to come back and we're going to end it as usual. So there you have it, all right.
Days ago from making this video, and Missouri was hit by one of the worst ice storms I've seen in a long while. Big shout out to firefighters, EMS, police departments across St. Francis County, even road crews, MoDOT, and obviously the city crews like Bonne Terre, Deloge, Park Hills, Leadington, Farmington, and all points in between, who worked diligently around the clock to keep the roads as clear as they could. They did an amazing job. One police officer actually had to abandon his vehicle and on foot went to a call and then got another call to go help a woman whose vehicle ran out of gas. I want to thank all of those wonderful people who risked life and limb to make sure that we made it home safe that day. This is actual footage from Highway 67 the next morning, more or less, as I'm on my way to work. Cars still on the side of the road, people who had to abandon their vehicles just because it was that treacherous. So be safe out there. The weather is getting rough. You'll even see in this next clip a four-wheel drive truck still stuck on the side of the road. So again, thank you to all of our responders who were out there risking life and limb for all of us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Prince Magnum, right here on the Prince Magnum channel.
All right, and we're back from our little clip. Again, I want to thank all of the wonderful people that the responders during this very treacherous time here in Missouri. It was very dangerous weather. So again, thank you to firefighters, EMS, police department, and MoDOT who and even right down to the city crews right here in Bonne Terre. They did an amazing job getting the roads cleared so we could all get to and from work, keep business rolling. So I want to thank all of the people who were deeply involved in this. I know sometimes here on the Prince Magnum channel, some people might get the idea that I don't like our police departments, and that is just so false. I just don't like it when police put themselves above the law, and this is one time they totally did not. So there you have it, folks. As always, this is the Prince Magnum channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out immensely. We're right now, as I'm making this video, the last I looked, which was just last night, we're up to 106 subscribers. That's really awesome. Hopefully, before the end of the year, we have a lot more. There's still plenty of time. I'm hoping to get around 150 before the end of the year. So, Maverick Nation, I enjoyed getting your comments. I enjoyed that. Please, again, keep sending those comments in and keep asking those questions. It keeps me thinking. It'll cause me to dig a little bit deeper. And the more questions you ask, the more I will try to do my best to answer them, even though there was one I could not answer, and that's twice now. And that really upsets me. But we're going to do our best to find that out, find those things out. All right, brings us to the end. Get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Do something with yourself. If you got a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. And above all, if nobody has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.
Good night, ladies.